All right, so here we have 9.5 part 2, graphing logarithmics, and we're only going to be taking a look at graphing the very basics. So these are going to be more or less like the parent graphs. So example number 1 says graph the logarithmic function y equals log 3 to the x, state the domain. So in order to graph this, we first need to graph or find the table of y equals 3 to the x. So we're going to go ahead and make that table, because if you remember, these are inverses of each other. So I'm just going to do -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. And then I'm going to go ahead and do 3 to the -2. I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my calculator. And I get 0.11. 3 to the -1, I'm going to go ahead and plug that into my calculator. I get 0.33. 3 to the 0 is 1. 3 to the first power is 3. 3 squared is 9. So these are our points here. And if I want to find the inverse, remember, if these are our points, to find the inverse of these points, we switch the x's and the y. So I'll make a new table, and I'll switch the x's and the y's. And so this is log 3 to the x. So we're going to go ahead and graph this. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and plot these points. So we have 0.11, and then that goes down to -2. And at 0.33, that goes down to -1. Then we have 1, 0, 3, 1, and 9, 2. And then we're going to connect those lines. And this parent function will always never cross the y-axis. So for all the ones we're graphing, it's never going to cross that y-axis. All right, so the next one, we have graph the log. Oh, we forgot to state the domain and the range. Okay, so let's do the domain. So the domain in this case, it's going to start at 0, and it's going to go all the way to infinity. And the range, we're talking about the y values, which this is going to keep on going all the way to -infinity. And it's going to keep on going all the way up to +infinity. All right, so the next one, it says graph the logarithmic function y equals log to the 1/3 x, and then state the domain and range. So again, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to graph y equals 1/3 to the x. And we're going to use the points -2, -1, 0, 1, and 2. We're going to go ahead and use our calculator for this part. 1/3 to the -2. That's going to be 9. And then 1/3 to the -1 is going to be 3. 1/3 to the 0, that would just be 1. And 1/3 to the first power will be 0.33. And 1/3 squared is the same thing as saying 1/3 times 1/3, so that's 1/9, which is 0.11. All right, so now to find y equals log to the 1/3 x, we're going to go ahead and switch our x's and our y, because remember, these are inverses of each other. So 9, -2, 3, -1, 1, 0, 0.33, 1, and then 0.112. So we'll go ahead and graph that. So we have 9, -2. So down there, and then we have 3, -1, 0, 1, 0.331, and then 0.112, so it's about there. So I could tell it's kind of doing this. All right, so the domain, as you could tell, this is never going to cross the y-axis. So it's going to start at 0 and go to infinity. And then our range starts at infinity to negative infinity. So that's going to be from negative infinity to infinity. All right, so that's about it. So you'll be asked to graph things like y equals log 2x, which you'll start off by graphing y equals 2 to the x, because those are inverses of each other. Then you do the switch the x and the y for the trick. So another example could be like y 4 to the x, and you would graph y equals 4 to the x.